So I'm happy to hand over to the panel. I'm very much looking forward to this interesting conversation. I must say, as I said earlier on, I am a stickler for time, so I'd love for us to keep this tight, keep it engaging, keep it really, really powerful so that we can get to the questions, as many as possible. Thank you so much, everyone. Andras, over to you.
Thank you very much. Thanks again for the invitation. And also thank you very much for GLG Communications to organize this World PR Day conference. I understand it has started a couple of years ago, and it started from as an African and Nigerian initiative, but it has become really global, which I think is a great thing, because now we can share experiences. But also, since the origin is coming from Africa, which is one of my favorite continents to work with and to travel to, I think it's always very interesting, not only for practitioners who are mostly practicing outside of Africa, to teach and tell what our experience with working with African countries, but also learning from panelists who are predominantly working or originally working from the African continent in multiple countries. Because I think over the last couple of years, I've learned that we have many things to learn from African PR professionals. So it's very great to have this conversation, and I'm very grateful that I've been invited to moderate this panel. Without any further ado, I will pose a couple of questions to both of you, Yolande and Yomi as well, and then a couple of questions to separate to you, because you have a slightly different experience. But at the end of our very short conversation, I'm going to turn to the Q&A session if we have any interesting questions coming from the audience. And as Rachel said at the beginning, we are following the Cannes Lions protocol, which means it's a 20-minute, very short and quick conversation. So we're not going to get too deep any of the topics which we are covering, but a couple of insights, couple of interesting thoughts about different topics. So the first one, let's start with the main question of this conference, which is the title of the World PR Day and the slogan of the World PR Day this year, which is Building Bridges and Navigating Polarization. So Yolanda, I'm turning to you first. How do you see the polarization coming from over the last year or years? In what terms? In terms of cultural differences, in terms of geopolitics, in terms of multidisciplinary challenges. So where do you see the polarization, and where do you see comms professionals can build bridges in these circumstances? Over to you.
Well, it deeply resonates with me, because as a communicator, I believe that true power lies not only in storytelling, but in creating understanding, even when the world feels divided. We're living in times where algorithms reward provocation, misinformation spreads faster than the truth, facts. People increasingly talk to only to those who already agree with them. But public relations, at its core, it's about, to me, and to most of you, I believe as well, is about human connection. It's about listening more than speaking. So personally, I've experienced how dialogue can shift perspectives, even between people who disagree profoundly. So whether working on sensitive issues, crisis situations, brand narratives, I've seen that carefully chosen words and authentic engagement can help people see each other's humanity beyond the labels and headlines. And to me, building bridges is not about erasing differences, it's about finding common ground. Fostering empathy, encouraging thoughtful, balanced dialogue. That's more critical than ever in today's world. And as PR professionals, we have both the tools and the responsibility to help navigate polarization and basically bring people back to shared truth and constructive dialogue.
Excellent. Yes. Yeah. I feel the same, and I've listed a couple of insights and ideas. But Yomi, over to you. How do you see the world polarizing? You also work across multiple countries, but also continents. Where do you see the polarization coming in, and where do you see PR professionals can build the bridges between the different legs of misinfo, disinfo, and the different stakeholders trying to influence in different ways?
Okay, thank you very much, Andres, and thank you, Yolande, for your quick intervention. I have listed about 7 things. Can you hear me? Can you hear me right? Okay, thank you. All right, language is one, religion is another, and politics. And in there you have maybe subsets of ethnicity, and of course we cannot ignore the issue of racism that is happening globally. And then when you add that to the kind of strife that we're seeing on the globe, in the Middle East, talking about Palestine and Israel, Israel and Iran, and so on and so forth, Ukraine and Russia, in Europe, you find that there's so much polarization that is going on. Now, what does that portend for public relations? In my opinion, it is an opportunity for us to put our profession on the front burner, because the world is looking for a solution. And right now, they are not getting it. So if we can use this to sell the value of public relations to the international community, to the United Nations, to the European community, to the African Union, and so on, and we say to them that the solution that you're looking for is found in public relations, we are best equipped to be able to deal with the issues of polarization. It's as if we have been made for this moment. And my advice is that we must look for a way to, permit me to use this word, exploit it to the advantage of our profession, so that we can be well appreciated, our value can come to the table, and more people will turn to us for solutions.
Yeah, great insights. Absolutely, and I totally agree. Because I think that, I mean, both of you have mentioned that we are working with different tools, but also I think the beauty of our industry is that we are working with multiple stakeholders. And I've just read a pop-up message from Ross that listening more than speaking is very key. That's my mantra. I'm always saying, and you both said that. So we need to understand all those different stakeholders to be able to build the bridges between the stakeholders, because we are not only selling stuff, we're not only selling messages, but we are driving conversations. And that's where we need to use our tools at the same time, following our core values and the basic values. My next question is a bit more practical, but both of you are targeted because both of you have worked in multiple continents. Let's say the last 6 months, 12 months, over the last couple of months, over last year, where do you see the biggest differences between culture in different continents or in different countries where you work with? So do you see any like different values, different tools to be used when you work in the US, when you work with African countries, where you work with European countries? Because when we talk about, very high level strategic comms level, and when we talk about geopolitics, we always say that, okay, the US is now different from Europe, Asia is different from Europe because Asia is growing, etc., etc. Africa is there, Africa is waiting in the start line to be seen. But most of you are working, and both of you and most of us are working with brands, with clients, and not in a geopolitical sphere. Where do you see the difference between the different continents of any cultures and any different ways of using any different tools? So where do you see the difference, and how do you see that PR should keep coping with that?
Well, I mean, the narratives may vary from, let's say, the values, the social interests, political views may vary from, one continent to the other, from one country to the other. But basically, the tools remain the same. It's about building. I mean, as you said, it's about building bridges. It's about giving it a possibility for people to be heard, for messages to be heard, for dialogue. As I said earlier, it's much more about listening, enabling local people to give their impact, or give their share their common, let's say their national values, so that we understand, we learn. Because I mean, the worst thing is that that you communicate a message that it's not supposed to be. So, but the tools, I mean, as I said, social interests, politics, I mean, we discussed about that. Interests may vary, but it all comes down at a certain point to human values, about respect, integrity, trustworthiness. So it's about authenticity. It's about walking the talk. And this is, I mean, this is a common tool, no matter where you are, be it in China, be it in the US. Unfortunately, I never had a chance not yet to work in Africa, but this is basically what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. Yomi, you also work in multiple continents. As far as I know, you are also outside of Africa for now. You're obviously very well known across the whole African region, but you also work with Burson, a global company. If you work in campaigns, if you work in comms, where do you see the differences between the continents affecting by geopolitics, by politics? Do you see any differences in terms of the values, in terms of the tools which are used in different continents? So what's your perspective?
Okay, for me, the basic objective is still the same. And what is that basic objective? Is building trust across markets. And we all agree, Edelman has shown us that there's a huge trust deficit across the globe. People don't trust the government don't trust the people in varying degrees don't trust the media. The media itself, I don't know how much they trust the people. So basically, the challenge is the same, is building trust, whether it's a private organization, whether it's a brand, whether it's a government organization, a public organization. The challenge is the same. It's building trust. Now, where does the difference come in? It comes in the tactics. So the tactics. So if I'm practicing in Kenya or I'm practicing in Nigeria, I have to take the cultural nuances in place. So I want to arrive at the same destination, but my route to it is what differs. So I need to then understand what the nuances of the Swahili culture against the Yoruba culture, which is in a tribe that I belong to in Nigeria, is against a tribe in Cameroon, or whichever part of the Zulu in South Africa. So the objective remains the same. The processes remain the same. It is the tactical approach that differs, which takes into cognizance what are the cultural sensitivities in the various areas that you walk in. So how does that then work with technology? You must then apply technology in relation to what the culture allows you to do. If I hope I'm able to communicate on that. So that's where the objective remains the same. The difference is in the tactic, and then you must learn to apply the technology, taking cognizance of the cultural differences.
Yeah, I totally agree, and that really reflects my experience working over the last 18 months, more closer to the to ICCO. We have done a campaign with the UNDP. It was called the Weather Kids campaign, and it was spread across 80+ countries. And we also, I mean, we as strategic communication advisors, we always have to play both roles, both the strategic advisor at the global level, understanding the key messages, but we also have to build up a system and a network of PR professionals in local countries to understand the cultural nuances, both as Yolande and Yomi you have mentioned. So I think that's like partly sums up our key messages from this conversation, is that we have to always, and still the message is very strong, we have to always think globally. But at the same time, when we do any kind of execution, we always have to understand the local culture, the local differences, the local cultural differences of using different tools, because some channels work in countries, some messages don't work in other countries. Let's start to wrap up. I'm going to see whether we have any questions in the Q&A session or the chat session. But before that, I will shoot you with a couple of quick and rapid questions. Try to think about one word which described the PR industry over the last 12 months, so last year, and what would be your words for the next 12 months? So everyone who is listening us, what would be the word to describe the history, the one year of history, and what would be the word which all of the attendees should pay attention to over the last 12 months? Yomi, let's start with you now.
Yeah, I was hoping Yolanda would go first. So I'll piggyback on that. But you know, just quickly before we go to that, there's this example of cultural difference that I want to show. You know, in Arabic, you read from the right to the left, as against, you know, normally we read from the left to the right. So there was somebody who went to run a campaign in, I believe, in the Middle East, and he drove his campaign from the right to the left. And it meant something completely different. For reason of time, I'm not able to share this with you, but it left from, you know, the whole essence of what you do is that you're supposed to say, this was what it looked like before, this is what it is now. But he now wrote from the left to the right. So what it meant was, this was what it looked like at the beginning, and then it looked much worse at the end of it. Just a simple example. But one word for Africa will be integration. Integration. Never before has the African continent been so fused in terms of the practice of public relations. So as we at the beginning of this, as Rachel said, there are many people from different countries on this platform. We didn't have that. Technology has helped us to integrate. So the reason why I, quote unquote, you describe that I'm known across Africa is not because I've done more work than my predecessors. It's just because at the time that I came, there was technology to blast me across Africa. 20, 30 years ago, we couldn't have done this.
Yes.
It would have been almost impossible for us to do this. It would have been magical for us to be able to do this. But here I am. I have the ability to be able to lead an association in the age of technology, that in the comfort of our various homes or offices, I'm able to speak to everybody. So if there's one word I would use, it would be integration.
Integration. Very nice. Yolanda, what would be your word?
Well, in the past, you're talking about the future.
Yeah, both. I mean, if you have two words, one for the past and one for the future.
As Yomi said, we've come a long way. I mean, when I started in PR as an international PR for Omega, basically what happened was we were sending out messages and information via courier to the world. I mean, that has drastically changed. If you look at the narratives over the past, let's say, 12 months, one would not have been able to think that, you know, narratives would go this way maybe a few years ago. You know, as I said before, let's say facts have not been at the core, at the forefront of everything. You know, it's mistrust, it's polarization. For the future, I mean, I don't know about Africa, but for the future, what I hope is that, as Yomi said before, is that we're going to be able to focus or continue to focus on meaningful conversations, on authentic storytelling to build trust. Building trust.
Yeah.
Okay. Rebuilding trust.
Yeah, building trust and rebuilding trust. Yes, and that I think that really reflects on the keyword, the slogan of polarization. That we not only have to build the trust, but we also have to rebuild the trust in certain cases. And integration could be a right word for that. And I also like the word integration because it has many levels and layers. It can have the integration of different channels. It can have the integration of diverse teams. It can have it can reflect the integration of disciplines, work together, but building and rebuilding trust is also very, very strong. Thanks very much. I'll try to be conscious on time. According to my clock, we are 20 minutes in this conversation. So Rachel, back to you, just to keep the time schedule and everyone else room for other conversations. Thank you very much.
I love it when a plan comes together. Thank you, Andras. Thank you for bringing the train right into the station just in time.